Welcome everybody to BAFF Talks session. Nice to see you all. And today our topic will be law. My name is Ilza Bembere. I'm representing BAFF scholarship programs in Latvia. And you can see on the screen my colleagues Seva Kauba in Estonia and Ingrida from Lithuania. And today we will listen to two amazing speakers who will share their stories, their interesting experience related to law, and experience also related to United States. But before we start with the presentations, I would like to tell a few things. So if you have any questions related to BAFF scholarship programs or our organization, please reach out to me or my colleagues. We will be happy to answer all of your questions. And you can find our contacts on our website. And I also encourage you to read the information about other BAFF programs that we have and our mission, and also about BAFF alumni community, which is a group of more than 600 already amazing people. And as you know, both speakers are also BAFF alumni, and both of them have participated in BAFF programs. And here I would like to give a floor to Catherine Libert for a few welcoming words. And Catherine is also BAFF alumna, and she represents BAFF Alumni Council. Catherine, would you like to say a few welcoming words?
Yes, hi everyone. Just wanted to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of the BAFF alumni community. Like Ilza said, we are many hundred strong alumni community already. And today you'll hear from two excellent alumni who are involved in law. It's always really great to hear about their experiences and stories, and I hope it'll inspire you and you'll get to ask any questions you might want to have to them. So looking forward to the conversations that today's talks will spark. I'll hand it over back to you.
And before we start today's session, I will quickly remind to our audience a couple of organizational things. So first, we will listen to both presentations, starting with Estonia, and then we will move to Lithuanian speaker. And each of them will have around 20 minutes for presentation for their stories. And then the floor will be open for the questions. And please feel free to type your question in already during the presentation. And then we will go through them one by one at the end. And ask your questions, don't be shy, and hopefully we will have an interesting conversation at the end. And I think now we are ready for the first speaker, and it will be Evert. And I think the floor is yours. We can try to share the screen, Evert.
So, hi, let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes, it's coming. Yeah.
So, can you see the full screen mode now?
Yes, perfect.
So, hi. So, my name is Evert Nõlv, and I'm from Estonia, and I was in US in 2015 till 2016 with the internship program. So, I'll briefly tell my experience and my journey into the legal technology sphere. So actually, I have rather unconventional background, as I haven't studied mainly law, but I've actually started off from the IT side. So I studied IT and then started taking more and more law courses. And therefore now I'm actually, you could say, in the middle of those two fields. So I'm not an purely IT guy, nor I'm purely a lawyer, but in the middle and trying to use IT to make lawyers more efficient. So my background also is that I was a legal intern once in law firm Borenius. Now it's actually called Cobalt. Probably you, as I know that the audience is also from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, then this Cobalt law firm is rather big in Latvia and Lithuania. And there I gathered my first like initial experience in how to deal with law and actually how to prepare documents and so on and so forth. Then I had a good opportunity to work in US in San Francisco in a legal technology company called Ravel, where I mainly did front-end engineering. So this is like all the website part. How should the website work? How should the data go? How should you see the data, and so on and so forth. Then I came back to Estonia. I was IT advisor of Supreme Court of Estonia. I believe that mainly thanks to my US experience, I got this amazing opportunity to work in the highest court of Estonia. And now more than 3 years, I have been doing full time. We have now a team of 5 building a legal technology company out of Estonia. So what is legal technology? So I like to say that actually IT in itself isn't actually worth anything. So the idea of IT is to support other fields. Would it be IT plus finance, fintech, or agriculture, agritech, geography like Google Maps, or biology, biotech, or health tech, and IT plus law is just another field called legal tech. So some people confuse legal tech and IT law. So IT law is like vice versa. So how you use law in IT sphere is IT law, but legal tech or law IT is how IT can help lawyers. So I see IT as like the support part. And now if you think, then the law is exactly the same. The law in itself isn't like, we don't do or deal with law just for the sake of it. We actually deal with law because we want to support other fields. Is it like finance law or environmental law or some other fields or IT law, for example? And so in that sense, I'm kind of using both fields, which in itself aren't really that valuable. The idea is to support other fields. So I'm like in the middle of two fields, which the main idea is to help others, to empower others. And my actually part is to empower lawyers to them to be more efficient. So what is and how can you categorize legal technology? So this is graph from 2017, but actually I believe that all the lines are going up from 2017 to 21, but I don't have the most up-to-date graph for that. But you could say that legal tech can be like legal document automation, how to automate documents, how to generate contracts, for example. Then the legal marketplace. So this is the number of startups per this field, according to Stanford Codex website. So legal marketplace is basically like Uber for lawyers, like just trying to find yourself a lawyer. There are many startups in that field, but I would say that they have rather low impact because usually the business of law is that you will find yourself a lawyer and you will use it. If you're a business, you will ask around who is the best, who's doing what in your field. Then the legal practice management, it relates all to the everyday doings of the law firm. Matter management, billing, time billing, and so on. And why I emphasize this legal analytics and legal research side is that I myself is in this field. so helping lawyers to gather more information and to understand and interpret law. Then we also have the e-discovery field, which is hugely popular in US, but not so much in Europe. So this is basically when big companies have litigations or they want to buy another company. They have to discover evidence. Is there something? So there's, for example, big case about Boeing. Lawyers have to go through all the emails, use keyword search to try to find enough evidence. Was Boeing actually causing this issue, or was it just an accident? And so on. So legal compliance is, I would say, now a bigger and bigger part because of GDPR. So how to comply with GDPR, how to comply with financial regulations. So all the different IT systems will help with that. So what is online dispute resolution? So this is basically if parties have a problem and then there's like mitigation, you don't go to the judge or a court, but the website itself will actually try to resolve any issues. For example, Amazon, if like sellers are violating some rules, then they don't have to sue Amazon. They go to Amazon and tell like, we have this problem and this problem, can you solve it? And then there are like, usually, is it like an algorithm or there are actually people behind it who try to solve your issues. But you can also say that legal tech is like more broader. There can be, and there are some, for example, law-aware systems. So you don't even have to, or you even can't violate the law. For example, if you have, there are some buses with breath analyzers. So if you have drank some alcohol, then you just, the bus just won't start. So you can't violate the law itself. So probably this field can also be expanded a bit more. Also, like solving specific problems. This is like really niche area. For example, it's in Europe, there are like tens of startups and companies who are dealing with delayed flight compensation. So I don't know if you know, but if your flight is delayed more than 3 hours, then usually you are entitled to compensation. And if previously lawyers had to like gather facts, created a file, had to do some research, like was this flight actually delayed or not, then now we can see that we can actually streamline the whole process and collect all the evidences automatically because we have systems. We know when actually flights were, what was the arrival time, and therefore we can automatically detect all the relevant information. And previously, like if it would have taken like a lawyer for like an hour or so, so now it can take only 7 minutes. But I see legal tech more of like an empowering lawyers rather than replacing lawyers, as law is really complex, and that's the reason why I am more in the legal analytics and legal research side. So as I mentioned before, then I went to US and worked in Ravel law, and thanks to that experience, I got to go to many different events. And I would say that like going to events and networking with people has a really great big impact on your career. If you know people, if you talk to people, then they can help you in ways that you can't imagine yet. For example, I went to an event in Stanford like more than 5 years ago now, but now I'm like having a Zoom meeting tomorrow because this person is writing like a research paper on legal technology, and it's all due thanks to the fact that I went to an event and actually got to know more and more people. So regarding to Stanford, for example, they even have a center called Codex, like Legal Informatics Center. So they actually actively search and try to think how technology can help lawyers. So in that sense, when I came from Estonia, nobody were actually talking about how IT is impacting law, but in there they even had like a separate center where dedicated people were thinking and discussing and writing research papers on how the future of law could be. So now a bit about what we did exactly in Ravel law. So if we have different systems, in Europe we have civil law, in US we have common law. In US, for example, the state or the house didn't decide that gay marriages are okay now, but actually Supreme Court said that that's allowed now. It's very different than we have it in Europe, where actually the parliament will pass a bill, it becomes a law, and this is now the new way of doing things. But in US, as the most of the things is evolving in the court system, then you could actually really nicely draw out the connection between the court cases. So here, for example, you can see all the court cases and how they cite to each other. So imagine before, if you search something, you wanted to find a judgment, you typically sort it by the date and started going through all the court cases. But instead now you can actually visually see like how judgments are referencing to each other. And now here, for example, I search for campaign finance and I can see that one particular court case from 2010, all the cases after that, lower level cases and even Supreme Court cases are referencing to that court case. And this court case itself referenced to all bunch of all other Supreme Court cases from the history. So now, instead of going through this Supreme Court case, for example, or this one, or some lower level court cases, I can immediately see that probably this Supreme Court case is the most important one, because somehow everybody after that fact are referencing to it. So just for your information, that this was Citizens United court case, quite important. Campaign financing means that how and when corporations can donate money for politicians. Before that, in US, there were clear rules and how much and who and how should you disclose this information. But in that case, Supreme Court actually decided that the freedom of speech isn't only applied for the natural persons, but also for corporations. And freedom of speech is for corporations how they spend their money. So basically, corporations can hand out as much money to politicians as they want to. And it's now you could directly see that this is the court case that you want to go through. Also, what we did there is imagine if you have a court case from 2010, after that fact, you have new court cases, and you want to actually know that is this court case having a lasting impact? Does other court cases now references to it? And now from the left side, you can actually see that there are some negative citations. So probably some parts of it has been overturned now. Some positive citations, meaning that further on, some courts actually reaffirmed that, yes, this is a like standing point and it's still valid. We also used machine learning to actually identify key phrases. From the right side, you can see First Amendment, this is the freedom of speech. You can see for-profit corporations. So we detected those automatically from the case itself. So imagine now if we have similar systems in the future in Europe as well. So lawyers could more easily grasp like, okay, does this point still stand? What are the main key phrases? Should I go through this court case or throw it aside and look forward? And of course, if you have citations, like further court cases have cited to this case, then you want to actually see how this citation looks like. And what did they actually say? What page did they reference? What phrase did they use? And therefore you can get quite easily to understand that. And it's few years old Financial Times article that legal firms play Moneyball. If you don't know what the Moneyball reference is, then in US there was a rather lousy baseball team called Oakland A's, and they weren't really good. but the new manager came in and did some data analytics and tried to understand with data like which team players we should choose, and they became the best because of that. So now law firms who want to use data as well to actually understand how should they phrase things, how particular judges would like to read things. And therefore we also did a thing called the judge analytics. So you could actually see like, does this judge like sport references, or does he like car references, for example, and by whom he is most influenced by other particular opinions or particular judges, for example. Here you can see like, if you want to have like a motion to dismiss, then you could see like, does this judge usually grant those or not? Is it worth the effort to actually try to write like a motion for summary judgment if typically it's always denied? So it's no point of doing that, for example. So if I mentioned those citations to court cases, between court cases. So in Estonia, for example, we have a unique number for each case, and it's rather easy to actually identify those cases. But in US, there's like a Bible for citations. It's called the Blue Book. It's 560 pages. So each state, each courthouse can have a different citation format. So you can imagine that this really simple problem actually is quite a big one. So a bit about our work process. We had everyday stand-ups. So what you did yesterday, what you're doing today, and do you have any problems? Also, we had a company-wide meeting every Wednesday, one-on-ones with Chief Technology Officer once in 2 weeks. The work was divided into sprints, into 2-week cycles, and after every 2 weeks you had to say like what you got done, what was good, what was bad, and what to improve. For Estonians, it was quite hard to just say like, oh, I did bad these 2 weeks, the things what I did was bad, for example. But in US, that what I learned from there is that you actually have to be able to say out loud the things that you don't like as well, and therefore those like performance feedbacks, what you have to keep doing, what you should stop doing, what you should start doing, what you should improve on yourself, were really eye-opening. And I hope that in this region as well, we are doing more and more those kinds of things. So, but what I'm doing in Estonia now, for me, it's quite interesting to see how ideas form. So people say that they have a shower or go for a walk, and then like the new idea just pops into their mind. I had studied like 4 years of IT and 2 years of law, and I didn't even notice that if one court or one legal act is referencing to another legal act, that there's no link. So it's rather obvious that yes, there should be a link, but I didn't even notice that. It was a normal thing to do, that you will just open a new tab and search for a new act and search for a new subsection from there. And the first feature was that we turned those references to links. Then actually we thought maybe you should just hover over it and see the citation. And now we have like a Estonian module where we are adding extra information on top of Estonian State Gazette. You can see court cases, journal articles, translations to English and Russian. You can see and compare different versions of law. You can add your own comments and share them. So the law is changing constantly. And if you have like a commercial code, for example, this specific section is amended, you can directly see which words have been deleted and which have been added. We also have like a search engine for Estonia. In Estonia, the words of the ending of the words are actually changing. So the typical search engines don't understand that, but we, for example, here you can see hypotheek or hypoteegi. I know that Latvian language as well have different endings in the word. I'm not sure about Lithuanian, but we are doing that for Estonia. So you could search for court cases, legal acts, and some other materials as well. We also have a module for likumi.lv. This is actually Latvian State Gazette. There you can search for Latvian court cases. You can add your own comments and share them internally. We have European module for directives and regulations. You can search for EU court cases. You can add and manage your internal knowledge. We have a Word plugin now where you can handle your contract clauses and templates and your comments. You can actually search from business registries with one click from Estonian, Latvian, and also some other countries' business registers. You can also tie together different comments with keywords. And what I would also emphasize that I did before, that community and like networking and events is really important. It's quite hard now to do because of the COVID. But if you're interested in legal technology, then you can search for legal hackers or European Legal Technology Association. And probably there are events in your countries as well. In many cases, I really like the picture that in many times people are too busy to actually take a step back to analyze the situation and then be more efficient. And that I can see that I was sitting in a legal lecture and suddenly I noticed that, wait, I have been doing a thing for 2 years now and I didn't even understand that it can be done more easily. And now we have like more than 2,000 lawyers are using us. We have like a company which is doing quite well. So I would say to you that try to look at things from different angles and you might come up with some new ideas. I think my 20 minutes is up. My name was Evert and that's my email as well.
Thank you, Evert. It was really interesting, engaging to listen. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are, I think, good on time. So Aurelia, I would like you to share yours. Are you ready to share your story now? And
of course. I just saw there was one question, so I don't know if we are answering questions later,
I
right?
saw that, yeah, one question came in. So we will go through the questions at the end after your presentation. So no worries, we will.
Okay, then I'll share my presentation.
Let's try to put the presentation on.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so hi, my name is Aurelia and I'm from Lithuania, and I would like to share a short story of how BAFF influenced my story. So a little bit about before, I was a student from Vilnius University Faculty of Law, and during my studies, I got really interested in non-profit sector, non-governmental organizations. And I combined my passion for NGOs and for civil society in general and my studies, legal studies. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's probably it's different in different law schools, but they teach you how to apply law, but not how to write law and laws and policies. So when I combined those two, it was really interesting as a third-year law school student to participate in parliament hearings and try to pitch your ideas and then make the legal environment more civil society friendly. And I was really lucky that after my studies, the BAFF team believed in me and provided this opportunity to actually visit the United States and see how NGOs, how civil society operates there. And I think I couldn't, it's just the best place where I end up to be, although from the first time when I heard where my organization is established, I had to Google it because I had no clue. So can you guess where's my story? It's a happy story from. Can someone guess where this is from? So this is from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I had to Google, is it on West Coast, East Coast? Apparently it's Midwest. And Minneapolis is just, and Minnesota in general is very European state. And it's very Scandinavian state, I should say. Many Norwegian, Swedish people are and ended up there. And it's a paradise for civil society organizations. You can find an NGO for any topic that you can think of. And people are really active. Minneapolis is called to be, I think, a second most bike-friendly city. So everyone is biking there. And this was my road to work. It's an amazing stone arch bridge. It's the downtown, although it looks like with the skyscrapers very American, but it's also quite historic there. And of course, weather is very Lithuanian-like, or like Baltic states-like in Minneapolis. So in winters, my trip to work sometimes looked like this. And there was a lot of snow and quite cold, but people still kept biking. So that was amazing. About my internship. So usually how we imagine lawyers, it's law firms and judges and everything like that. But I was really happy again to end up into an organization where my colleagues looked more like this. And this is from one event where you can see a lady with a headscarf. She's a journalist from Yemen. She has received a Nobel Peace Prize for her work in literature and journalism. And my organization mostly focused on these topics. It's women's rights, international justice, refugee and asylum support, and human rights education. And it was also, at the time when I was there, it was almost 10 years ago. It was back in 2012 when I started my internship there. It celebrated the 30th anniversary of the establishment of organization. And it had a consultative, and it still has a special consultative status at the UN. And the Advocates for Human Rights are still running the UN Women legislation sort of side of website platform. For me, it was amazing to learn how NGOs operate in the United States. For example, these two pictures are from so-called house parties, where such an NGO, which is mostly pretty much all the people who work there as a staff are lawyers. So they're also supported by lawyers and legal, just in general, people who are from legal profession, and many judges or different kinds of legal background people who have their large spaces and houses. They invite people, like a community of that organization, where people can hear stories, what organization did, because the Advocates for Human Rights, they work all over the world, and in Lithuania as well. They did a great deal helping with the domestic violence law being adopted. So for me, it was great to see what kind of support the organizations get from community and sort of their members in general. And this is the entrance to the house party, such a fundraising event where people can buy presents, donate their, you know, how Americans, they write their checks. And during that event, they get, someone will come up and tell how much money they receive, for example, $10,000. And they still need like a couple of $1,000 more to receive a matching grant. So these different kinds of various opportunities for fundraising, creative opportunities of fundraising, was something that I had, at that time, I have not seen in Lithuania. Of course, now, after a few years, it's getting more, NGOs are getting more creative in Lithuania as well and bringing these international practices. This is our smaller team who only worked with domestic violence and sexual violence and in general women's program. And so the lead of my team, Cheryl Thomas, this is the picture where she's presenting, giving a presentation to Lithuanian prosecutors and judges on how to create all this system where people, and mostly women, are protected from domestic violence. And up to now, they're still coming to Lithuania. We meet and have a good time together, and I get to participate sometimes in their trainings, where they do trainings for police officers, sometimes for social workers, but mostly it's again focused on the human rights and legal field. Another organization where I volunteered, I tried to use as many opportunities as I could. So I don't know if you know, but Minneapolis and the neighboring city twin, St. Paul, they're called twin cities. So you just take a light rail, a train, and you get to St. Paul, and there was organization Bridges to Safety, which again was sort of a team of 17 nonprofit organizations, as well as the police and the court, where victims of domestic violence, they could come and get a consultation from a psychologist, a consultation from a court clerk, consultation again from a police officer, and there was a room where they can leave their children to play with volunteers. So it's a place, it's at the same building, it was at the same building where the court of St. Paul was. But like when you go in, you go through security, and there's this place where in different rooms, different offices, you can get all the services that you need in one place. And it's a safe environment and friendly to families who need to come in and get help. Another organization where, at the same organization, I met an amazing police officer whose name was Mike. You can see here in a blue shirt. He was very friendly, and in the United States, there is this program called Ride Along. So he took me on a couple of those, and it means that you can get on a patrolling with a police officer. So one of them was particularly interesting, where there was a court-issued a forbid past violent person to contact the woman that they were living together. So we just had to check in if the court ruling is kept and if everything is okay. But there was a story that the police officer actually had a suspicion that, I mean, the woman opened the door and she said that everything is okay. But the police officer said, like, every time when I come in and she invites me, she's acting differently. So formally he could say, okay, woman said everything is fine. And he did his job, but actually then he had suspicion that something is different than how it is usually. So he asked more of his colleagues to join in, and then they again knocked on the door, asked the woman if they can come in, and they actually found the guy who was not supposed to be there with a knife in another room hiding. So it was just another experience of how a police officer can, whether formally say, okay, everything is fine, or if you have a passion for your work, if you know how domestic violence works usually, you can actually save the situation and maybe human life. And this police officer was amazing. Next day, after one of our ride-alongs, I came to work and I found on my desk a note with a short description of how the case went and what was did, and it was just a very nice gesture of him to actually give me a feedback of how everything went from our ride along together in burglary arrest. Another organization where I also got to volunteer was called Watch, and again, it's still very, I don't know if people from Estonia and Latvia also heard what just happened in the UK, where woman was killed on the street. So main goal of this organization main goal of this organization is to keep the courts accountable and to make sure that the law is being kept and victims are being protected. So their slogan is, "So women can walk in the world safely." Their goal is to involve public. This is the picture of their volunteers of different ages, from students to people who are already retired. And each volunteer gets training, and they get the special red binder. And each volunteer is trained of how the procedure at the court should go. And they just go in where the case is being processed, and just mark yes, no, or put some questions if they think that some things were off the procedure that it's supposed to go. So these volunteers really help the organization, which gathers this data from the volunteers to write reports on the tendencies that courts have. They make it public, so courts have to protect the rights of the victims more according to the law, and less for their interpretation. This is again some pictures from the activism that I got to see in Minneapolis. They have these various human rights protests, and when I was in Minneapolis, they got adopted the Marriage Equality Act. And again, it was interesting to see even law firms using it as an opportunity for I don't know, a live commercial where they said, before saying I do, just come and talk to us through all the legal questions. It was an amazing pride parade that year because of the Marriage Equality Act adoption. And of course, the nature of the United States. I was really lucky again to be in Minneapolis because it was close to wonderful states, and I got to visit Yellowstone. I got to interact with the Lithuanian community in Minneapolis. The first time, and since that, I think it was still the last time when I got to wear Lithuanian national costume. It was in Minneapolis together with the Lithuanian community. We made traditional food and watched Lithuanian movies, and yeah, I could share more pictures, but many people who were there, they have the same pictures of traveling to most famous places in Minneapolis according to their taste. And shortly about lessons learned. So my advice would be catch every opportunity and use the time wisely, and volunteer in every possibility that you have, and find your passion and stick to it. I was really lucky that by searching many different organizations during my studies, I found the NGO law that it's still up to now my passion, and it helped me get where I am now. And be open to responsibilities because they take you forward. It was when I got back from BAFF internship, many people asked me, so why are you coming back? You know, America is the state of opportunities, land of opportunities. And for me, the answer that I had to myself, and I often said it to other people, for example, in Lithuania, whether I'm an NGO or government, I can actually make an impact, create laws, propose, submit opinions, and make an impact. In the United States, you would just be another small stone in the sea, and you couldn't make the change as big as you can make it in your own country. Although it's maybe the hard way, but it's definitely worth doing it. And so after BAFF internship, many years forward, now I'm at the Ministry of Social Affairs, and I'm heading an NGO's development division. So we are actually every day now creating the laws for civil society, and I can say that I switched sides now from NGO sector to the governmental sector, and yeah, it's really useful for me to see and to talk to our partners. I understand them better compared to maybe other colleagues who do not have such experience in different fields, and maybe didn't have an opportunity to broaden their horizons in different countries and see the potential that I got to see during my internship in the United States. So yeah, thank you, BAFF, for opportunities, and thanks everyone for your attention.
Thank you, Aurelia. Interesting and inspiring presentation. Thank you for sharing. And now it's time for questions. So I encourage you to type in your questions in the chat box, and we already received a couple of them. Before we move to questions, maybe if you don't mind, I would like to ask you to put your cameras on so we could see your faces. And maybe I can start with one question from myself. Aurelia, you already mentioned a couple of lessons learned, but maybe you could share, both of you could share some advice or tips for students, and what is the most valuable thing you could share you have learned so far throughout your career? So
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. My advice would be just go there and explore, and don't focus only on books. Books are important, but if you go to the wall, to the market, and you have to find a job or something, you just need to have some experience. And NGO is the field where definitely I would recommend going. There are just so many diverse, different kind of NGOs in Lithuania, and I believe in Latvia and Estonia as well, where you can find yourself a career path, or if not, you will definitely gain an amazing experience. I cannot stress more how important is that. Just go there and explore and participate in those events where you can learn about the missions that particular NGOs have, and just join them and create and learn.
And
Yes.
definitely when like living in another country, that itself also like broadens your viewpoint and understanding of other people and their issues. So only in that regard, it's like really beneficial to actually live in another country or in another city to understand what others are thinking, and then you might get some new insights and new ideas or what to do yourself.
Yes, thank you. And I can see, do we have a question from Evaldas? I can see the hand raised up.
Yeah.
Or is it, do you have a question you would like to
Yeah.
ask?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for the very nice presentations. And I have one question for Evert, because I'm not only teaching at university, but also I'm practicing lawyer and partner at Wallace. And we are trying to find those new AI tools, and it's really difficult because when we go to the English language, it's much more easier, and we already have some of those tools, and we're using them at when we do legal due diligences. But when it comes to Lithuanian language, we still are in lack of this. What do you have in Estonia, and what's your experience of using Estonian language, and how do you think, how long still we need to wait to have proper tools to make lawyers' work easier? Because what you presented in your presentation was really amazing, and those tools would help to everyone, even in our region.
So yeah, it depends. Like if it's like automation, what you have like real clear rules, then this is like doable in Lithuanian or in Latvian, in Estonian, or in other countries. But if I think you reference to like AI tools or like some things that need more data, in that sense, it's rather hard to do like solutions in Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania, because like the amount of data isn't just the same. Just to give an example, in US, for example, like big companies who are in stock exchange, they have to disclose many contracts. And there's like a SEC website called Edgar, which you can look out. You have to pay, but you can actually download all the contracts, or some contracts that they have to disclose to the stock exchange. And therefore, if you want to build some neat tools that will actually try to understand from the data, then you have this big subset. Or in US, for example, if you file a claim to a court, then the random person can buy it within like 10 cents or €1. In Estonia, if you file something to the court, nobody else can see it, only the other side and the court itself. And the only, like, the real material thing is the court judgment itself, but there are so few judgments compared to the, like, all the claims filed to the court. So in that sense, yeah, I would say that, like, AI tools, it's rather hard to do it in Baltics, but like automation, like pulling together different things, tying data together, and this is definitely doable. But if you want to do, yeah, like e-discovery or due diligence about Lithuanian language and understand this NDA has like this particular point wrongly written, then this is rather hard, yeah.
Totally agree with you, Everton. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? I can see in the chat box that Evert already answered to the first question about source of information, where the statistics is coming from. So this is answered already. And
hello, I have a question. I think I...
Yes, please, yeah, please.
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you both speakers. It was really, really very nice presentation. And I also have a question to Evert. I am myself lawyer, also working in a law field. I understand it's like you're somehow, you also had experience in now Cobalt. And usually I'm also thinking about like automation projects. And what do you think, how would we be able, like in the nearest future, to have some automated, for example, application to a court? Because actually this is not that much easy, especially for court applications, to find the right algorithms, because every case is very different. What is your opinion?
So I see more that like IT and technology and automation, it can all like empower lawyers that they themselves can like find more easily the things to look at and so on. But like actually having like a robo lawyer or a robot lawyer or AI lawyer, that I see that the world is too complex to actually like. It would be so easy just to write an algorithm and now we don't need any lawyers. No, I think that we need more lawyers. And actually they are saying that in US it was like 80% of legal needs are unmet. Probably it's kind of similar in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, that most problems people don't have enough money to actually go and defend their rights. And therefore like technology can like pick up the lower fruits, and therefore lawyers can like streamline the processes and get more things done. And I think we need more of them. And I think that like there's their job definitely doesn't go away. Rather, there are more and more things to do because technology will enable to pick up the smaller things that aren't so profitable now, but will be if parts of those are automated. But regarding to filing to the court, particular problem, then it might be doable for like very niche things. Like I mentioned before, like flight delay compensation. You have really clear facts. You can automatically check if those facts are evidences, and therefore you can like just write it automatically. But this is like really niche things. So probably for like in real world scenarios where you have like typically complex problems, then I really can't see that like IT will like automatically somehow like solve people's problems.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, I see one question in the chat box. So, how is the situation with domestic violence in Lithuania? Is there any effect of COVID-19 lockdown, months long? I think question goes to Aurelia.
Yeah. Yes, of course. We have a survey and surveys and numbers that domestic violence, of course, is increasing, and it's difficult for victims of domestic violence to get support because not even some shelters, they don't work during quarantine, or they have problems of working and how many people they can accept at the moment. But what we are doing from the ministry, we're providing support for those organizations so they can actually get masks, disinfection supplements that they need, what they need to actually start working and continue the work that they do. And at the moment as well, colleagues at the ministry are preparing together with the NGOs from this field amendments to the law that would help, and they're discussing with judges, with prosecutors, on how to improve the system, since the law was adopted back in 2012. So now we're building upon that, what was created with the help of, again, the organization, the Advocates for Human Rights in Shiril, who helped Lithuania at first change the mindset. And then now we are happy that we can change the laws. So definitely, unfortunately, the numbers are rising now.
Situation is as it is. What can we do? And one more question from Evaldas, right?
Yeah, guys, what would be your tip to future scholars? Give up to 2 tips for choosing the partner in the United States to do your research or wherever, and what would be tips how to approach them and how to choose them wisely? Because it really depends your research results on your future partners.
Who would like to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
Well, my advice would be invest enough time into this, because I remember how many organizations I had on my short list. And again, I was really lucky that the Advocates for Human Rights accepted me. And yes, but the main advice, just have in mind that you do have to invest time. It's very important. That would be it. Thank you.
So from my side, I just like Googled a lot, and then I just heard a bunch of names from Estonians as well. And I was really lucky enough that the first company that I chose was the one who accepted me. So I was like lucky. So I don't really have like a really good advice how to just like find the best one. So a bit of luck goes also into it. So.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very useful advice, I would say. Yeah. Any other questions from audience? Or we are ready to wrap up our session today? Nothing comes in. Okay. So thank you so much for presentations, for your interesting stories, and thank you all who participated and asked the questions. We hope you enjoyed our BAFF Talks session today and got some tips, some inspiration. And we will continue with our BAFF Talk sessions in April as well. And next session is planned on April 21st. So hope to see you all there as well. And also we will be sending out a short survey tomorrow. So please give us your feedback. Let us know how it went and what should we improve for the next time maybe. And thank you again. Enjoy your evening. I think we are done for today. So hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.